Okay, here we're going to talk about tone. Tone isn't so much what you say, it's the way that you say it. Like, don't take that tone of voice with me, or sometimes it's hard to read tone in a text message or in an email because you can't hear the way the person is saying it. So at least we have emojis. But what about when we're reading something different, a book or an article, something like that? So let's talk about tone. So tone right here, tone is the author's or narrator's attitude. It's your attitude. It's the way you say something. Your tone can be positive, it can be negative, or it can just be neutral, meaning it's not positive or negative. You can usually tell by the type of language that the author or narrator is using what the tone is. So let's take a look at an example here, okay? So we're going to look at this quick video here. We're going to do it all together, but tone is the author's word choice. It's the way, it's what words they use to explain something when really they could have used other words, but they chose specific words to help show what someone is really thinking about something. All right, so here we go.
Using Powtoon.
Okay. All right, so that's an idea about tone. And if you're paying attention, you saw that tone can sometimes be sarcastic. Like we don't really mean what we say, we're just using it as a way to show that we're upset by something, like the kid who wrote in the video that, all the things were going wrong that morning, and then he's like, it's gonna be a great day, right? Sarcasm it's a type of tone. Okay. So here's the deal. It's easy to hear the tone in someone's voice, but it is sometimes more difficult in reading selections, right? So we have to infer the tone based on the other descriptive words in the passage and based on what's actually happening in the story, okay? So think about it this way. How many ways can you say any of these phrases, right? think about I'm sorry. How many different ways can you say I'm sorry? And which ways can you say it show like an actual tone? Like if you say I'm sorry in a genuine way, like you really truly mean it, it's going to sound very different than if you're fighting with your brother and your parents tell you to say I'm sorry and you're like whatever, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean anything, right? Because it's the way you say it. So think about each of these phrases. What are some different ways you can say each of these phrases that carries a different tone, right? So there's like I'm sorry, right? There's I'm sorry, right? See how that sounds very different? What about I believe you? I believe you. Or I believe you. I believe you, right? Or I can't stand you, right? That sounds funny. Like we're just messing around. We're just kidding. I can't stand you. Very different tone. You're so funny. That's right. Okay, there's that tone. And then there's this tone. You're so funny, right? Shut the door versus shut the door versus shut the door, right? There are so many different ways to say what we're talking about, and the way that we say it is how we show tone. So you have to think, okay, but then how does a writer show that? And unless the writer is reading out loud, you have to think about what else is happening in the story or in the passage that helps you understand the way something is being said. That's what you're doing here. Okay, these are some words that can be used to describe tone. So if someone says, how do you think that character's tone, like how do you think he sounds when he says that? Or what is the tone of voice this part of the passage should sound like? Okay, so your tone can be like devastated, so upset, right? It could be relieved, it could be horrified. You could have a very playful tone of voice. You could have kind of an uncertain tone of voice, right? Lovingly, you could have a loving tone, a scared tone, maybe the kind of tone where you sound shy or disappointed or bold or confident. Any of these can be tones based on how you say it. So what do you do when you're writing and you have to show the tone? Right? So let's look back at those. These are the phrases that we saw a couple slides ago, right? I'm sorry, I believe you, I can't stand you, you're so funny, shut the door. Okay, so how do you show that the speaker is being genuine, like being really, really truthful? How do you show the speaker is just being sarcastic and doesn't really mean it? Or how do you show that a speaker, in a story is being rude? Or how can you tell or how can you show that a speaker is being upset? Like if I'm the one writing it, how do I show those things? So what you have to do is kind of what we did before. You have to practice saying these words, saying them in different ways to show or to convey different tones. Your tone is your attitude. So this is a good spot if you haven't done so already. If you've already done it, then we'll just keep going. But I mean, you can pause this video and you can just kind of have some fun with saying these different phrases in different ways and thinking about the tone, thinking about your tone of voice. All right, so what do you do when you're the one writing and you have to show the tone, right? Like this phrase, I believe you. Okay, so check this out. This is a passage that if you watch the video on mood, this will look very familiar to you. If you haven't seen that video yet, it's okay. You'll see this particular passage again. But look at this. Roberto slammed the door with force and leaned against it, breathing hard. The escape was narrow. He had just made it, barely. He slowly whispered, I believe you, to no one in particular. There was no one there, but it was still a narrow miss. He knew he wouldn't be so lucky next time. So look at that bold-face phrase there, the one that says, I believe you. Is that tone, like if he were saying that out loud, how would it sound? Is the tone genuine? Meaning, does he really believe someone? Did something just happen to where he's like, oh my gosh, I believe you? Or does he say it in a way that makes you think maybe he's lying? Does he say it in an angry way? Would it make sense for him to show anger here in this passage? Is he saying it in maybe kind of a frightened way? Do you think he's confused when he's saying it? Do you think he's being rude? So, do you think he's being genuine? Do you think something here now we don't have the whole story, but just in the passage we have right here, do you think something happened to where when he says, I believe you, we believe he's telling the truth? Yes. Is there anything here that makes you think he's lying about something? No. Is there anything in this passage that makes you think he'd be angry? No. Might he be frightened? Yeah, he might be frightened. It kind of sounds like a frightening situation. Is there anything here that makes you think he might be confused or that he's being rude? No, there's not. And so that's how writers put together words that show tone. How about this one? The "You're so funny" quote, right? You're so funny. So let's read the passage. Well, I guess we now know what it takes to make you burp, Allie giggled. I know, right? Oh, you're so funny, I laughed. So that part, you're so funny. Okay, is this like an angry, stressful situation? Is this like a fun, funny, lighthearted situation? Like, what is the tone here? Well, no, the tone is funny. It's genuine. It's funny. It's nothing serious. Let's do another one. Okay, same phrase. You're so funny, but now let's look at how it's being used. Okay. You're going to clean your room, organize the garage, and pick up all the dog poop in the backyard, Jamal's mom stated, her eyes boring holes into his. Ha, you're so funny, Jamal almost said out loud, but bit his tongue because he knew a statement like that would only make things worse for him. Okay, same phrase, you're so funny. Now, in the story here, Jamal did not actually say that. Can you imagine what would happen if you said that? Right? He almost said it. If he had said it, what would his tone be? I'm thinking pretty rude, right? Rude, and he knows it because in the story here, in the little passage here, he decides not to do that. But that would be an example of using words to show a rude tone. Let's do another. Same phrase, you're so funny. Let's look at it in a different way. So then I finished my homework and checked my Snapchat, Derek explained. There's a little typo there. It's supposed to say, so then I finished my homework and checked my Snapchat, Derek explained. Oh, you're so funny, smiled Liz, playfully punching him gently in the shoulder as she leaned forward and gazed into his eyes. Okay, what? So is the tone genuine? Does it sound like anybody's lying? Is anybody angry? Is anybody frightened or confused or rude? That phrase, oh, you're so funny. I mean, does it sound like they're just joking and playing around? Does anybody seem angry or frightened here? No. And so when you're thinking about tone, it's not just the phrase you're looking at, it's everything else that's happening in that situation. Same thing here. Okay, so that is tone. If you have been thinking about tone and mood, I know in this particular video we only talked about tone. There is another video where we talk only about mood. And so I don't know which order you're watching these in, it doesn't matter, but just gonna leave you with this, a little video on tone versus mood. Here we go.
Time for another happy studying session with Mometrics Academy. Hi, and welcome to this video lesson on textual, style, tone, and mood. When authors write, they use language and word choice to create a certain style, tone, or mood in a piece of literature. Tone is the author's attitude toward the subjects in the text, and mood is the feeling the text invokes or inspires in the reader. Authors often use their own style, personal attitudes toward subjects, and the mood that they create in order to tell a better story. The style and tone created by the author usually impacts the mood that we as readers experience. Let's take a look at some different examples of style, tone, and then talk about the moods that we experience after reading them. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." "I won't," cried Anne. "I won't sweep the floor. It's beneath my dignity." "Someone will sweep it," replied Anne's younger sister, Sally. "Else we shall soon be wading in dust, and you are the eldest and the head of the family." "I'm the Queen of Oogaboo," said Anne proudly. "But," she added with a sigh, My kingdom is the smallest and poorest in all the land of Oz. Did you see the tone and style difference between those two pieces of writing? They also should have created different moods for us as readers. In the first one, there was a very ominous mood. We kind of felt a foreboding, a darkness to that piece. In the second one, it was much funnier and a little bit more comical. Also, the way that I read those two pieces helped you understand the mood that was being created or the tone that was being used. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. Thanks for watching this video lesson, and until next time, happy studying.
Okay. So there you have it. So a little bit of tone and mood mixed in here at the end, but remember that tone is the attitude, it's the way something is said, and many times when we're reading, we have to think about the other things that are happening in the passage in order to understand the tone.